things. Is never a great way to start a thing you're about to say. In theory, it shows indecisiveness, but that's not true. At least not always. This video is about using machines that do know what to do, even if they don't do it perfectly. At least not yet. This video is about Agentic AI. If you have not heard the term Agentic, all it really means, it's a fancy word, a fancy term of art in the AI space. It basically says that we use machines to not just automate tasks, but actually make decisions for us. So they can automate tasks and decide whether or not to pull the lever up or down, to push 1 or 0, and to essentially make all kinds of decisions that people previously and still do make, but that it was exclusively people who used to make it. And now machines are making these decisions more and more. And when you think about Agentic AI and the potential use cases of it and the existing use cases of it, well, at first it can seem pretty cool if you look at the pretty cool use cases, right? Agentic AI can help you be more effective in your day-to-day life by running all kinds of routines that you would otherwise not like to run yourself. You prefer to have them be automated by some smart machine that knows how to make the best decision and always makes the correct best decision. Of course, the problem is, well, what happens when it doesn't make the best decision? Well, then there may be consequences. Those consequences may be negligible, or they may be indeed very, very serious, even catastrophic. And that can certainly be the case if you start looking deeper into use cases that are more professional, industry related, military related, etc. Then your smart agents have to be 100% reliable in order for you to actually have any peace of mind that it is actually doing those things. In order to do that, you have to have an operating system, a system of processes that make sure that this happens. And one of the ways that you can do this is by batching decisions that it makes before executing them. It gives them to you to approve, and then you approve the batch, or you can edit it as necessary, and then it runs those that it's supposed to run and not those that it's not supposed to, and makes changes to those that it should only run after making changes. But of course, even then, if you're depending on an AI system to do that for you, you still have to monitor the machines closely, relatively, especially when they're making important decisions. Now, if you're just using an agent to make some visuals for you, and it doesn't really matter, and no one's going to get harmed if it doesn't go exactly as planned, then there's nothing to worry about, right? It's fine. But if you're going to use an agent to, let's say, drive you across town in your self-driving vehicle, or give the patient the right dosage of medicine, or whatever it might be, fire a bullet from a machine gun mounted on a turret somewhere, robotically observing a target and firing, at a potential threat to national security, you need to be 100% sure, or as close to it as possible, because life and death is in the balance. And you don't want to leave that kind of decision to a machine completely unmonitored. Heck, it might be something as mundane as a mechanic using Agentic AI to have the computer analyze a car coming in for a regular tune-up, and God forbid, the Agentic AI systems fail to actually determine the state of the car because they didn't notice that little oil leak or that failure in the brake line, lack of brake fluid, or whatever it might be. Not enough water for the radiator, etc., etc. And so, okay, all right. And so you need to be really careful that the agentic AI systems that you use do not actually run automated tasks, which could indeed jeopardize life and limb. But even without going all the way to life and limb, there are other potential disasters in business, for example, that you might run into. For example, if you use agentic AI to run routine business tasks, maybe get some data about the performance of your website or your app, get some KPIs about your sales, revenues, lifetime value, etc., and prepare a report for you, and also suggest ways to optimize those KPIs by suggesting specific changes to A/B test in the following days. Well, what if it makes the wrong decisions? Are you going to rely on your machines to make the decisions better than you when you have the human intelligence, the wherewithal to understand, to really comprehend the subject matter better than a machine that's been trained on either a large language model or a small language model, or is in fact a real AI, or even a deep learning system or a neural network? How are you going to inherently trust the machine to do a better job than you, even if statistically it is going to do a better job than most people in the normal distribution? And the answer is you're not going to. Because you probably think, if you're worth your salt, that you shouldn't trust an AI to do a better job than you because you've been trained and educated and you've learned your job. And you do it as well as anyone can, or can be expected to do it. So you think you're an outlier, or at least you're on the high end of the normal distribution. If not, why would you be working in the job you have if it's an important high-level thinking job? So maybe you are an outlier. The way to know that is to look at your results and, of course, to compare it to other results. of people doing similar work, and of course of AIs doing similar work, and see how your performance is compared to those things. Agentic AI also presents a problem, which is ethics. As you know, I am a big believer, big proponent of ethical marketing. And in ethical marketing, you need to be damn sure that your message is correct. You know, the product has to be what it says on the tin, as they say in England. It has to be what you see on the box, should be what's contained inside. If it's not, that's not ethical. If it doesn't pass the grandma test or the sniff test, if it seems shady or suspicious or unethical, then it probably is. If you can't explain it to your grandma or to a grandma in a way that makes sense to her, and she's suspicious of it or doesn't get it, then you're not communicating it right and you're probably doing something wrong, even if you have a completely legitimate product. The ethics matter. So, how do you make sure that you're operating ethically when you use agentic AI tools? Well, the first thing you need to do is to train your agentic AI tools to be ethical, to comprehend what ethics are, what good ethics and bad ethics are, to know the difference, to be able to always decide to choose good ethics. Of course, if you're going to be a bad ethical marketer, if you believe in bad ethics, fast gains, flash in the pan, all that dark stuff, well, of course you can use all of this information and do the opposite, right? You could train it to do bad things, but you shouldn't. Because in the long run, good ethics make for a better case and they support your claim better. It's harder to knock down the truth, right? Frankly, it's impossible. Truth. Yes, there are subjective truths. That's true. But 2 + 2 is 4. That's also true. And that's true whether you live in South America or Northern Russia or anywhere in between. It matters that you do the ethical thing, because if you don't, you're not just causing problems short term, you could be causing yourself problems very long term. And it's usually not worth it, which is why I always recommend to do the ethical thing. Right? Be the ethical marketer. Do the ethical thing. So you train your agents to be ethical, and you run tests on them. And you see whether or not they operated ethically. And if they ever veer from that, if they ever fail to behave ethically, you need to immediately stop using that tool until you retrain it and make sure that it is learned from its and is clear to proceed again, to be tested again. Those that pass the tests, and there should be multiple tests, from simple tests to advanced tests, should have the ability to then begin running automated systems where they make decisions. But like I said before, they need to clear those decisions with you before they execute them. So it is a step-by-step process. Yes, in theory, you could install existing agentic AI systems and trust that they will do good work and not worry about if they make little mistakes because you might be doing something banal and what is this? Hey, hello there, folks. Hi. You might be running very routine things like schedule calendar appointments, schedule sales calls, schedule whatever it might be, stand-up meetings, etc. But even those things can cause problems if they're done wrong. You might be using your agentic AI to make sound bites for a radio show or to make, you know, short animated clips that you're going to use to put together a PR package or a marketing package, right? For a teaser video or some product demo or some product announcement that you have coming up. Well, these things are all well and good, but if they mess up, again, you have not just the technical issues to worry about, but you also do have the ethical issues to worry about. Because what if they create information that is misleading or misinforming, right? What if they create information that deceives users and makes them make critical mistakes, right? Not comprehending what you're actually presenting or offering or suggesting or scheduling or announcing, right? They might misunderstand what you've announced, what you've published, and that can cause problems for them. And it would be unethical for you to just post that stuff without reviewing it and being responsible for it. And if something is screwed up, you don't let it out the door. And if you do accidentally let it out the door, at least you did it yourself, and you can immediately, or as soon as you know that you made a mistake, you can send out a correction with an actual human apology / errata or erratum message announcing, yes, I made a mistake. I said that this would happen, but actually this other thing will happen. It was an honest mistake. I forgot to put the word not or do or whatever, will or won't. Whatever the actual mistake is, corrected, own it, because people will respect you for doing that. They will not respect you for sending out a mistake and not issuing a correction. So that's my word to the wise for you. That's my little handy tip about agentic AI. I'm not going to rant about it very much. Well, maybe I will. But the whole point of agentic AI systems is to make life more effective, is to automate the dull processes as much as possible. And the mundane and routine decisions that need to be made that in theory could be made by machines. But you need to make sure that those machines are carefully and well run. And let's be honest, right now in the agentic AI sphere, there are a lot of semi-automated systems that have not passed muster, that are effectively screwing things up for people, that are making mistakes, and that people are not managing well. And they're letting those mistakes go unaccounted for, unowned. Basically, they're letting people make huge mistakes. So, on that note, decision to not let that happen, right? You do that by doing the things that I've explained in this video so far to make sure that your automated processes don't end up causing more harm than good. And in fact, that they cause no harm. Right? Should really kind of have to take a Hippocratic oath of sorts, which is do no harm. Now, whether they actually ever will, personally, I doubt they ever will, but whether they actually ever would depends on the people building them and whether or not they would actually build such a thing to have certain high standards. At the moment, it seems as though that's unlikely to happen. And the reason it's unlikely to happen is because right now it's a land grab. Everyone is trying to get the most users. It's acquisition 101. Get the most users, acquire the biggest market possible, the biggest consumer base, so that you can have the best shot at being the market leader and be profitable with your revenues. And the thing is, very often, that is not the way to actually build a profitable system in the long run. Even though statistically it does work for the outliers. But for the bulk of businesses that survive past 10 years and might have some kind of exit strategy or may choose to just stay in business forever, you don't actually have to do that. The market leaders are very often not the first movers, for example, and they're very often not the biggest land grab during the gold rush or the, Homestead Act. Very often, they'll simply be the people that managed to effectively bring on a sustainable rate of growth that is profitable from the earliest possible days. Maybe it's day zero, maybe it's not, but it's impossible for every business to just depend on a land grab model and expect that doing so will make every business that does that survive and thrive. Because it's just not true. Many businesses will absolutely fail even while operating a land grab model, even if they are the land grab leader, because their systems and their costs might be too high. So even if they use agentic AI to automate and optimize their costs, they still might spend too much money, because at the end of the day, human beings are still making decisions about how much to spend. And even if you were to fork that over to the machines themselves might make poor decisions and spend too much. And let's be real, no serious business owner worth his salt is going to actually fork over the wallet to the machine with unlimited spending power. They're going to cap any spending the machines can do very tightly and monitor it constantly. whether that's minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, whatever it is. There's no one who's just going to simply allow the machines to run wild without supervision. Because that could shut down the business very quickly. It could cause a business to go bankrupt very quickly. Imagine you let your agentic AI systems run all of your Google ad spends, or your Facebook ad spends, or your influencer market spends, or your events marketing spends. Well, you could suddenly be looking at costs that are many times what you expected. And if you just allowed it to happen, it could rupture a business, especially a small business. But even a mid-sized business or even a large business could get screwed up in this way. Imagine you have an agentic AI system running trades for your company, and you have a large company moving billions of dollars every day in trades. What then would you do if the machine started screwing up and we're losing hundreds of millions of dollars a day? Maybe even billions of dollars a day. What would you do? You'd probably have to shut down, right? You'd probably want to optimize that stuff. I mean, who wouldn't? Anybody with a half a mind should. Because of the inherent risk that exists when you trust a machine to do these kind of operations for you. That's why you need to be extremely careful when you use agentic AI. Now, does that mean you can't use agentic AI and really be comfortable with it? No. There are actually many systems and processes that you can run that are, fairly benign. To give you an example of how well it can work. Okay? But these systems are not that different, frankly, than some rather primitive machine learning systems. Like, we can train machines to do things like LLMs, right, or SLMs. We can train machines to make automated responses to things and to make decisions on which response to use, and it can be fairly effective. For example, if people will chat with your chatbot on your website, on your Facebook page, right, and it can answer product-related questions. And those decisions can be pretty easy to ensure they are ethical, and that they give accurate information. And if they ever give information that the user thinks is inaccurate, they can and always should point them to how to get in touch with a live person who can give you the correct information, or who can confirm that the information you thought was incorrect is actually correct. These are just some of the things. That's a very simple example. Product information on a website, or setting calendar events, or booking a sales call, right? Or scheduling an informal get-together of friends at some local park for a informal game, pick up basketball or soccer or whatever. These are all things that you can use agentic AI to do, which can optimize your day-to-day routine, and they're not likely to cause any problems, even if something goes wrong, like they write in the wrong time or location, because you can, in theory, like I said, make that correction. And if even somebody shows up to the park at the wrong hour, they show up a half hour early or 2 hours late or who knows what, it's probably okay. You have to assume that giving somebody the wrong time and place, this is something that people have been doing for ages and forever, right? People have been giving bad information about when and where to be somewhere since forever. It's a common thing that people do. So, if a machine were to do it, well, it's kind of par for the course for the human experience. Now, you would expect that a machine wouldn't do it, but machines are also not yet perfect. So those are just some examples of easy ways to dip your toes into the agentic AI space. I'll be sure to talk more about this in coming videos. But for now, I bid you all a happy, wonderful, and fantastic day. Peace.